Most of us have certain things in our life, these shadows that show up for us when we're stressed or feeling off or don't know who we are. And we feel like there's something wrong with us, that we have to get rid of it. It's something bad. But when you look at it through the gene keys, it's part of who you are. We are all conditioned from the minute that we are born. Honestly, we're conditioned within our womb of our mother with her energy, you know? We are conditioned all throughout life. When I was able to look at that chart and say, I'm not defined in my G center, I'm not defined in my emotional solar plexus, what that means is all of these beliefs that people have projected onto me are not my beliefs.
Welcome to SoulPod, where science meets mysticism and your inner wisdom leads the way. I'm your guide, Crystal Cassidy, and together we will bridge the seen and the unseen, science and spirituality, the practical and the profound. From quantum physics to energy centers, near-death experiences to extraterrestrial contact, join us as we delve into the mysteries of consciousness and journey together towards a more awakened, compassionate, and soul-connected world. Find your seat, drop in, and let's go on a journey together. Welcome back, light beings, to another episode of Soul Podcast. You are in for a real treat today. I'm so excited to have Miranda Mitchell on the podcast today. She's a voice liberator, oracle creator, embodied leadership guide, whose work weaves together human design, gene keys, and galactic remembrance, which we are for sure going to talk about. And she weaves this into somatic and sacred pathways for reclamation and healing. And we're going to dive into conversation today with Miranda around all of these areas that she works and also her personal awakening story. And again, the more that we kind of explore our personal awakening stories, the more that we discover we have a lot more in common than maybe we have different, and that there's these themes on the awakening journey that are really interesting the more that you dive into it. So welcome, Miranda. So excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm excited too. I always love when we get to connect. I love how you started with the grounding, so I can connect with like inner knowing rather than external stuff going on. So thank you for that. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Inner knowing. Yeah, we're going to dive into that today for sure. So I would love to hear from you, maybe taking us back in time a little bit to Miranda before awakening. I mean, we're always awakening, but usually there's some sort of initiation point, this moment where awareness broadens and you're really never the same. Did you have that kind of experience on your awakening journey?
Well, there was many awakening aspects, but I would say, I've always known I was a little different than my family, a little different than where I was brought up. I wanted more than I had in that space. Although now it's like I want to go back to that space because it was in the country and Vermont and trees and all the goodness.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was beautiful. But when I was younger, I wanted more. I wanted to learn. And I felt like there wasn't the space to do that. So I went on this whole journey of trying to love myself and learn who I was by making mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, proving to myself over and over that I was not worthy of love and all the things.
Mm.
So that was my younger years. It was all one trauma after another, it felt like, but I do know it was for a reason. Now, I would say the biggest thing for me when I started to notice what was going on was when I was pregnant with my daughter. She is now 13. I was being drawn to yoga at that time. Before I was personal training, it was all about the physical body, all of that kind of thing. And when I was pregnant with her, I was drawn to yoga and slowing down. And this is where I actually learned to tune into my inner knowing. Tune into myself rather than the external drive, even though I still have a lot of that because it's conditioned for sure. Always tell everybody that she chose me as a gift. She chose me because it's like I loved everyone else for who they were, but I didn't love myself for who I was. And she was a mere reflection of me. She was even due on my birth date. She gave me, no, she gave me 4 days grace, I like to say, because she gave me 4 days before she was born. But we are a lot the same. And I feel like she chose me so that I can recreate or heal the karma that has been in the feminine aspect of our family for many generations. There was generations of domestic violence, of abuse, of self-abandonment, of not being supported by our mother, like being alone. And she has given me that gift of being able to support her and acknowledge her and see her for her differences and help her step into those differences. And in turn, I also get to learn to love myself through the mirror reflection.
Wow, that's beautiful. Such a great example of how relationships are such a portal for awakening and healing. And I also can totally empathize with that. I think there's so much of that going on, this feminine generational family lineage healing that, especially in this current generation and the generations to come, has such an opportunity to heal so much of that. And that's so beautiful that she's been a reflection for you of how to love yourself. I mean, that I don't think I've ever heard somebody put it quite like that. It's really, really beautiful.
Thank you.
Pregnancy as a portal as well. I know I have a few friends that have been pregnant and have recently given birth, and they keep telling me, they're like, my meditations are different, like things are moving, energies are opening up, realizations are coming in, and that's such a powerful, powerful thing. So did you have any particular moment? I know for me, it was obviously a series. It's an ongoing, continuous awakening and expansion. Was there any moment that you had, maybe in meditation or other practices, where you felt that awareness expand even more for you?
Oh, I feel like it happens all the time. Honestly, I find that when I am sick, when I actually have to take the time to not fill my space up, to really tune inward, I have two experiences of when I had COVID that were amazing. The first experience was when I was in Egypt, and it's interesting because I prepared for this trip, and I was going to a room with someone, and it was a pilgrimage. So during this, open room came up where they could say, okay, we have an extra room. Do you want your own room? And at first I was like, no, I don't. I want to, that's part of me connecting with people, is actually rooming with someone that I don't know. It's part of what my learning experience is. And then it came up again before I left, and my body was like, this is number 2, and there's a reason that this is coming up for you. Like, you need to have your room by yourself. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to have this room by myself. I don't know what this is. So I ended up going, and on day 3, I ended up coming down with COVID. So I had to be in the room by myself. I truly feel that I was always going to get COVID. There was always something. This was a sign for me, like, hey, you're going to need the space to have alone time. You're going to get sick. You're not going to have the experience that you think you're going to have. This is going to be something deeper. So I got COVID, and I was by myself. I was actually exiled within the group. I had to get my own van. I had to wear numerous masks, and we were on a pilgrimage. So it was going from one monument to another, one plane to another. They didn't know if I was going to be able to get on the plane. They were looking into having me drive 11 hours with someone rather than getting on the plane. But then the guide was like, no, that's dangerous. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on?
That's a lot. Yeah.
It was a lot. And then I ended up pulling my cards, journaling, having a lot of reflection. And before this experience, I had struggled with sciatica for a long time. It was an entire year that I had sciatica pain. I couldn't step on my left foot. I was in massive pain, and I was even worried I wasn't going to be able to go. But when I was going through all that deep reflection, the one day that I was on the Nile, I was in the deepest of it. The next day, I actually stood up out of bed and my back was no longer hurting. So there was definitely me working on abandonment issues with my mom I mean, I had that and I projected that onto the person that brought us there. There, I was working through so many fears and so many unconscious fears and traumas that I felt a different person when I came home. And then fast forward to 2 months ago, I had COVID again, and I dove into Galactic Astrology. And within that, I learned that I had a past life in Egypt, and my cartography sun line is in Cairo, Egypt, that's when I went. It was 10 days before my birthday, and it was actually an awakening that was happening for me. And I was exiled for my past life for knowing too much, speaking too much, just knowing things. And so it was actually a gift. So every time I get sick, it's almost a gift, even though I really don't like to slow down that much, because I am a manifesting generator, if you know human design. So I like to always be doing things.
Yes, you and I both. That's how we were like, we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I'm going to Egypt in a few months. It's so exciting hearing you talk about it. And it feels very much like a portal, even though it wasn't the experience that you had planned on. And that's also been my experience with COVID. For some reason, I mean, I almost died because of that virus. So it was a very intense time for me in 2020. But it was such a deep, karmic, cleansing, spiritual experience. It's always interesting to me hearing people like you who are spiritually attuned speak about COVID, especially because it seems like something about that energy is very potent in many ways. From an awakening perspective, seems to be very intense and, I mean, productive. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's not fun for sure. And I don't wish it on anybody, but it also carries with it a lot of transformation. And
I agree.
Since you mentioned it, I would love to dive into, I don't think we've had anybody on the podcast that does human design. And I know this has been a big part of your journey. Could you kind of explain to our audience what is human design? How is it different from astrology? And how has it contributed to your awakening?
I've been studying human design for almost 6.5 years. So I have noticed that now more and more people are getting the name of it. So whenever someone says, oh, I'm a projector, I'm a manifesting, it's like, oh, yay, I'm so excited. What human design gave me, what it is, first I'll explain what it is. It was downloaded days and days during a supernova. Uruhu downloaded all of this information during a supernova in 1987. So, and that I researched it. So like when the star burst, we all get parts of it. So of course he received all of this information. And it was 1987. And he was told during that time that this was actually for the children, which at that point in time, a lot of us were, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Because we were so conditioned by external, what success is, what we think we want, by comparisons, that we're all energetically living out of alignment, and that we're going to kill the planet that because of what we're doing. And what this does is it shows you by your birth date, birth time, and birthplace, gives you this body graph of white areas and colored in areas. And some of it's like black and some of it's red, and then you have white. So the colored in areas, I just like to say, regardless of what color, I don't want to go all deep into that right now. The colored in areas are where you have consistency. It's where you put energy out into the world. And the white areas are where you receive energy from those around you. So we all know we felt emotions. We felt when you walk into a room, if the vibe is kind of weird, or if a person's kind of off, or energetically we feel things. And it is because of we are constantly in a state of giving and receiving as far as energy. So that's the first aspect. As far as deconditioning, it's like understanding where there are white areas in your chart is where you receive a lot of that energy from other people that is not you. You take that energy in, you amplify it, you feel it, and then you believe that it is you, especially if you're around that person for a long time, whether it be parents or sisters or partners or whatever it is. You're taking in the energy, you're believing it's you, but it's truly not you. So when you're able to look at those areas, you're able to say to yourself, oh, wow. Like for me, I have an undefined G center. This is love, direction, and identity. I used to morph myself into other people all the time, depending on who I was around. I would question myself and say, well, I don't even know who I am because I'm this person when I'm here. I'm this person when I'm here. So why do I even matter? I don't even know who I am. When in reality, it is, I was taking in other people energy, thinking it was mine, thinking it was me, rather than going off and being by myself and letting that energy kind of dissipate so that I can really connect to who I am. And that's what the chart does. It gives you the opportunity to connect to who you are, to where you receive energy, to where you give energy. And that's just a superficial part of it, because it goes way deep into shadows that you experience, that you're here to learn, the conscious, the unconscious, the lines in the way that you experience things, depending on how deep you like to go. I have the 48 in my conscious sun. So what that means is depth is where that's what I'm supposed to give the world. So I can't make myself
that makes
small.
So much sense. Yeah.
I can't make myself small. I have to give the depth, and if people are ready to hear it, then they're ready to hear it, right? So it gives you the opportunity to understand, and it gave me the opportunity to understand that everything that I was feeling within my yoga and meditation practice was in fact true, because I'm very logical. I have logic in my chart, a lot of it. And I would always question, like, am I making this stuff up in my head? But then looking at human design, going to the gene keys, I realized everything was in fact true. So it gave me the logical thing that I needed to trust myself to move forward.
Love it. So much resonates with me and your journey as well. And I think I don't know as much as you do at all about the human design system, but it's been really helpful for me just knowing at a high level that I'm a manifesting generator. And it's more helpful for me than astrology in the context of how I run energy and how I use energy. It seems to be much more potent for understanding that about yourself. And like manifesting generators, like we have our hands in like 10 different pots at all times. And that variation for me is so important. And I think I'm a 1-3 as well, which is a teacher element, maybe, if I remember correctly.
The one is loving to dive in and study and learn and make sure that you know all the things before you share it. And then the 3 is trial and error, kind of like the experiment. Try it on, see how it works. Does it resonate? Do I want to bring it forward to teach others, or is it something I want to leave behind?
Yeah, so it's so fascinating. And how does this differ from gene keys? I'm super curious about gene keys.
So the gene keys, I feel, with the yogic philosophy and yoga practice and the subtle energies of pranayama and meditation, that's where I first started. Then human design was like this tangible evidence that I could see, okay, I have this here, unconscious here, conscious here, this is my lines. And then the gene keys takes it in a little further, that it brings it into each one of the activations or definition that you have in your chart has frequencies. So I love that Richard Rudd calls it like the harmonics of the shadow, the gift, and the Siddhic level. So each gate activation has 3 frequencies that we fluctuate through. So what that means is most of us have certain things in our life, these shadows that show up for us when we're stressed or feeling off or don't know who we are, and we feel like there's something wrong with us, that we have to get rid of it. It's something bad. But when you look at it through the gene keys, it's part of who you are. It's not anything that you get rid of. It's the shadow frequency means you are either up leveling, you're out of alignment, you're comparing yourself. So every time I see a shadow frequency show up, and the logical part of me is like, oh, I have these gate activations. So inadequacy is a huge shadow frequency that has always shown up for me. Fighting against the world, always showing up for me. Like knowing, putting a label onto these things, I guess, because I can actually logically see it. When it shows up, I'm able to acknowledge it, accept it, and ask myself, I'm out of alignment. What am I doing? Am I pushing? Am I not resting? Am I comparing? What's going on? It's not that I have to get rid of it. It's more so it's a tool of reflection of where I can readjust what I'm currently doing. So the gene keys, I feel like, is a more subtle level. I feel like I went from the subtle of yoga and pranayama and meditation to the logical, tangible, to the masculine energy of human design, and then back to the subtle level of the contemplation and reflection of the gene keys. So I feel like the way that I learned it was a gift. I always feel like that everything comes to you for a certain reason. Some people find the gene keys first. So whatever resonates to you, that is correct for you. Just because I did one thing, you did one thing, it doesn't mean it's the right way for everybody. So only you know which way feels right for you.
I love that. Follow your intuition. And that's been my experience as well, as that the right books, teachers, I love that you called it tools of reflection, tend to come up in your consciousness when it's something that's ready to come into your experience. So follow your intuition on that. And Miranda has all this really beautiful wisdom, and we're so lucky at SoulPod because she's put a lot of this wisdom into a portal that will be coming out soon in SoulPod by the time this comes out. And this is a deconditioning portal. And I love how you think about deconditioning. Can you kind of walk us through what that means to you and how you thought about constructing an experience like the deconditioning portal in SoulPod?
You know, deconditioning is, we are all conditioned from the minute that we are born. Most likely, we're conditioned by our energy. Honestly, we're conditioned within our womb of our mother with her energy, you know? So, and then we're born out into the external world of whoever you're around, conditioned by their energies, what they decide they want you to do, what is important.
By society at large,
Yeah, like who you are, what it means to be successful, what it means to even be pretty or attractive, or what your body should look like. We are conditioned all throughout life. And the thing with deconditioning that I learned through human design was when I was able to look at that chart and say, I'm not defined in my G center, I'm not defined in my emotional solar plexus, I have a totally open ajna and I have an open head. What that means is all of these beliefs that people have projected onto me are not my beliefs. I'm actually here to be very open-minded, to be able to understand all perspectives. I am actually here to be able to identify and take in other people's identity so I know them more than they even know themselves at times, so I can guide them. I'm here to feel your emotions and to help you in that creative realm and help you kind of ground in your emotional state because of understanding what I have open and defined. So we all have these energies when we're born, but we're all conditioned. So if you give yourself permission to look at where you're conditioned, not with judgment, because some conditioning is beautiful. We can use our conditioning as well, but it's the awareness that it is conditioning and letting yourself use it when you need to and then come back home to yourself when you need to. Understand who you truly are. Understand that you are limitless. You can step into potential, that you are not who people said you are to be or even who you thought you were, or sometimes who you lose yourself into other people's. You're not that. So being able to know who you are so that you can be authentic and create love, connection, community, whatever it is that you want to hear. Because we all want to be of service. All of us do in some way. Now, many of us have lost that because of what success looks like. But really, when you tune into your heart, we all want connection, love, seen, value. And when you're able to understand yourself and authentically know who you are and start putting that out into the world and witness how happy it makes you feel, then you want to do that for others. You want to support others in that as well. So deconditioning is not about letting everything go that you've ever learned. It's about the awareness of knowing where you're conditioned and having the choice of letting it go or when to use that in a way that is supportive for humanity or for yourself.
Want to double click on all of that. That was so beautiful. Yeah, it seems like to me, deconditioning, it's this pathway to greater authenticity. It's just like with the awakening journey, it's an ongoing increased awareness, and I think you mentioning the non-judgment part of it is so important because that can be the shame and the guilt can be something that stops you from taking a look at some of these areas where you may be conditioned. And the release of judgment of yourself helps that guilt and that shame kind of dissipate so that you can at least look at it. You can turn that light on of your awareness and become aware of more. And more includes our shadows and areas that we've maybe abandoned ourselves and our authenticity. So it's such an important part, I think. And for me at this point, it's ever evolving, like I said, but when I become more aware of something that is conditioned or is somewhere that I've turned this rock over, and I'm like, oh, that's surprising. It used to be a feeling of a little bit of shame, but that has transformed into more and more curiosity. Because I'm like, ooh, what can I do with this? What happens if I release this way of being, or I embrace more of being who it is that I really came here to be? And that becomes exciting. And then deconditioning and this increase in authenticity is really motivating on the awakening journey.
In the gene keys in the pearl sequence, it's called the pearl, and this is where you feel the most prosperous. And prosperity does not mean money. It means where you feel the most prosperous. And through the lens of the gene keys, we all have our own unique way of feeling most prosperous. And this is where I go deep into the things of like the line and what sign it's in and what it means. So mine is in gate 37, which is all about creating tension with love, with compassion. And it's in line 4, which is charity for humanity as a whole, and is in Pisces. So it's through all the emotional depth. So when you start to like fine tune, that's where the astrology aspects and everything comes in with human design. It's like a fine tuning almost of like, that's exactly what it is. And when you realize that, like for me, that is what makes me feel most prosperous. That's what's going to bring me prosperity. Prosperity is not the same for everybody, and it has to do with a type of feeling of what you're bringing to humanity. So some people may be in the 5 line, which is all about creating these huge visionary structures and having this reach of leadership. That's where they feel most prosperous. So it's really wonderful when you're able to decondition yourself from what you think success is going to be. So you stop that drive of going 100% to be somewhere, because really all you have to do is connect with yourself and you're already there, as long as you let yourself feel that way every day.
I love that. Prosperity is something that I think a lot of our listeners will connect with, this idea of creating prosperity in your life, and also knowing that it's already here in some way. And I know that sounds kind of ethereal, but in meditation a lot of times I do a similar thing, which is connecting to what does it feel like. And it's surprising to me how challenging this can be, and how many people tell me it's hard to connect with what makes them feel prosperous. There's some confusion even there, and it makes sense that if you're confused about what helps you feel prosperous or what that feeling is, that it's difficult to connect to it. And so it sounds like to me the gene keys, some of these tools help you create a little structure around understanding what is possible for you and what you could step into, and maybe where your shadows are and your gifts are. So I love using tools like this. And I would be remiss if we do not dive into Galactic Remembrance. So I'm very excited to talk about this with you. What is Galactic Remembrance to you?
Well, within my studies, always evolving, Galactic Astrology is what I studied. And in doing that, it's amazing on how when you read things, how you just know that they are true. And that was the same thing with the gene keys. It's almost like we have this dormant DNA that lives within us. As soon as you read it or see it, it just blossoms and it opens and you're like, oh, that is true. Like, no doubt. So Galactic Remembrance is about lifetimes in galaxies. I know it sounds a little bit out there. And I will also just say that in my chart, it does say that I'm always ahead of time, that I need to speak about things for those that are ready. And even if people don't understand you, it's not they don't understand you, it's just not they're not ready. It was the same with human design like 6 years ago, even though I know a lot of people that learned a lot earlier. But it is about the galactic realm and how we've lived lifetimes in different galaxies, and how we choose these experiences or lifetimes as a way of healing and learning. And we're constantly managing to choose the life that we want so that we can grow and evolve. And I truly feel like we're all here to grow and evolve, right? So it is like, I would just say for when I was learning about mine, my North Node, which North Node is all about what my soul is here to do. It's Sagittarius in the fifth line, or in gate 5 in human design. So that is patience, right timing. And it's in Sagittarius, being that teacher, stepping out into the wisdom. And it is conjunct galactic attractor, which means that I attract that galactic energy, galactic sound, galactic knowing, and that I'm actually here to speak about it. So it goes on a broader level, and I feel like it's almost like an overarching arc over the human design and gene keys that I've done. It's like a remembering of past lives, of knowing sound is frequency, vibration is what I'm here to shift through sound and frequency. It's knowing that we are all frequency. It's about how we are not separate, that we may feel that we're separate, but we're not separate. It's because we've lost part of ourselves during a war, whether it was like Lyra or Orion or wherever it was, but it's a remembering in your cells. And it's very hard for me to explain logically, because I'm a very logically, like, I like logic, but I do know when I studied it and I read it, it felt true for me. And everyone that I've talked with, I've mentioned Lyra to you, and you're like, oh, there's something there. There's just a remembering.
Just a quick moment to say, SoulPod is a bootstrapped, female-founded company built with a whole lot of love for people like you. And we just launched a new feature called Portals, bite-sized journeys like the beginner's portal, the integration portal for when you're moving through big changes in your life and your spiritual development, and even soulscapes with a timer to soundtrack your solo time. You can find the link in your show notes, and if you're vibing with this episode, follow the pod so more light beings can find us. Yeah, and I love that we're having this conversation. I think our audience would be open to this conversation. And really, what we're talking about here is what we also call starseed lifetimes, right? It's like lifetimes. And if you think about it, even if we stretch our logic a little bit, and if we all agree that the soul is this timeless, pure consciousness, then it makes sense that to expand and experience that we would have other experiences other than the planet Earth in our universe and maybe even beyond our universe, right? And so it makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know, I've landed here personally that I'm like, well, of course there's other highly advanced civilizations and civilizations that aren't so advanced, but I think there's many that are quite old, and we have a lot to learn from, and those relationships are starting to maybe come back into our experience. I think for me, what comes up in that conversation too is that the senses that we perceive our reality with currently in this human incarnation, they're limited to the interactions with our reality that would support our survival. So there's currently whole dimensions of experience that we may not be able to perceive at all. And I talk about this a lot on the podcast, but since we do know that we have quantum states now sustained in our brains, that opens up a whole nother aperture for exploration around what the implications of that are, that we have more of a field experience as these conscious beings than maybe we've previously appreciated. And if we have more field experience, that makes sense that interdimensionality and these realms of knowing, I love that you mentioned knowing quite a bit, open up dramatically. And so it seems, based on my own personal experiences as well, that I now know, I know for myself, not saying anybody else needs to, that there are other beings out there that are highly advanced, very loving, and I've only perceived who knows how many of them, but it makes me very excited about this next evolution for humanity, reconnecting with that part of us that maybe we've forgotten, that is interdimensional, that is expansive, that is a field experience. And I think we have so much to learn from these beings. But going back to like past lives, when you said Lyra, that has been very present. I know I've had a lifetime in that star system of some sort. And I've heard this since I was pretty young. Lyra would come up in my experience a lot. I'm like, I don't think that's a coincidence. But what do you think, since this is a very kind of like edge-provoking conversation, how do you think it serves humanity and where we're being asked to go next?
Well, I feel like by remembering where we've been, we're able to connect to, like, Lyra is it's about being whole. Like when you're on Lyra, you experienced wholeness. So during the war, whatever, when it was no longer, then it was split. So they say basically if you were on Lyra or have connections there, that you're constantly looking for that other part, that there's something missing, there's something that you're like looking for because you've felt it before. Lyra is also about music and sound, and the sound before the earth, the sound of Om, the sound of humming, the tribal sounds have always been really made me cry, like the Yawanawa tribe, I love. And it's the sound of like the heaviness and the ancestors. I remember when I was listening to those songs, I would feel like my ancestors were screaming, even though I didn't even know what the words were. And I started connecting with music, and music is what feelings feel like. And then to come to Lyra, and it's all about the sound frequency. It's all about vibration. And that's what we are. So if we connect to that, then we get to heal ourselves from disease. We get to heal love for one another. We get to heal the planet through sound, through frequency, through vibration, through remembering the importance of those things. And that's where I think all of that is how it can benefit us. It's like connecting to those things in the past that will help us in the future decondition, let go, and heal.
Oh, I love that. Remembering where we've come from in order to move into who we're asking to become. That's beautiful. With all of this knowledge in these systems and these tools of reflection that you've gained over the years, how has this shifted your personal purpose? For me, through my awakening journey, my purpose evolved greatly. It started with me kind of being like hyper focused on success, like you mentioned before, and that success looking like being an executive at a biotech company, which is fantastic and is such a great journey and served me very well. But as I awakened, I realized there was something deeper, and this unexpected creativity started to pour out of me in all these different channels, whether it's writing a book or creating SoulPod. Like, it really shifted my relation to my purpose. Yeah, I'm just curious if you've experienced something like that as well.
Yeah, when I was younger, I was looking for myself. I didn't know myself, didn't understand myself. My Chiron is in house 1. It's about the self, and it's in Aries. So a lot of it had to do about understanding myself, learning who I was, what I'm here to do, what I'm here to bring, and being authentic. Now that I know that, it's more so, it then evolved wanting to help others learn about themselves, being authentic, learning to love themselves, so that creatively they could step into who they're here to be, how they're here to experience life. And now it's even broader, because I still do that and want that, because it's like that's where it all starts. But then it's more so on the collective level of healing the planet through creativity, not comparison, letting the struggle of force go, the constant going, reconnecting to nature, having less, having to do less, be less, so that you actually get to experience life. So it has evolved a lot, but I also see the steps, and I know that I'm here to support people in moving through that process so that they're also able to stop just thinking about themselves, start to think of others, and then start to think of the collective. So I think a lot of humanity is stuck in ourselves, and it's because we've had to survive.
Yeah.
Right? But then once you are able to move away from that and start to support others and help others, then it gets even broader. So I feel like if we were all able to do that, again, I have big visions in healing humanity, but I do feel it just takes one person to connect with a lot of people, because then they shift and grow, and then those people connect the ripple effect. We all know what that is.
Mm.
So it has evolved. It's gotten a lot bigger than myself.
Oh, so just chills on that, because same for me. And I think a lot of you on the spiritual journey probably notice that about your journey, as it starts to shift from being a very me focus, even though that is the foundations, right? Heal yourself, heal the world. It starts to expand. And I think you point that out beautifully, that then it becomes about how can you serve. And the planet is being one of those beings that we can serve, because you start to see how everything is connected. That I talk a lot about, this shift from belief to knowing. Once you know that we're all one, that everything is connected, this draw to service and to harmony, even at a collective level, becomes so much more of a propellant and desire. And kind of along these lines, we talk about the new earth quite a bit in spiritual circles. What is the new earth to you?
Well, I already feel like we're already creating it.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel like we've already started the process of creating it, of awareness, letting go of what we've been programmed to believe. I'm hoping what the new earth is again, collective love and support of everyone rather than competition. And again, it just comes back to the earth itself, connecting to the water, the trees, the land, and having the awareness and appreciation for those like simpler things. That's what I feel like the new earth is. More so helping others and letting go of the constructs of like big businesses. All of those type of things are focused all on money. But that's just my little version in my head. So it could be
Big version.
I have no
I
idea.
like it.
Yeah, that's my big version.
Yeah, that's your big version. Beautiful. Thank you. And if there were, I know there's probably so many lessons that you've learned. You've mentioned a number of them. Are there any other lessons on your spiritual journey that you've learned that you'd like to share?
So when I was practicing yoga, I remember my teacher said to me one time, and it really connected with me, just show up to the mat and not have it mean anything. Not meaning, oh, that was a good practice, that was a bad practice, whatever, labeling it, right? Just showing up over and over. And then there was an experience when I did my equine gestalt training where I had a lot of traumas. I know we didn't talk about that. A lot of my traumas.
What is that?
Equine gestalt is, I'm not sure if you heard of Gestalt. Gestalt is German. It's where you create an experience, like an experiential exercise for an individual to reenact something that had happened previously, that they can shift the outcome. So I had a lot of suppression with my mother. She never listened to me. She didn't hear me. She always valued other people. So all of my work for 2 years was with my mother. So I sat with her in the chair and talked to her, did the screaming, what is it called, where I use a racket and hit it's a cube, where I would scream and like get everything out that I was never able to say, never allowed to say, was too scared to say. So I did all that work on her, all of that. And then for the longest time, all I wanted was an apology from her, an acknowledgement that, hey, this was really messed up, So I did all that work, and then my grandmother passed, and I called my mom. We hadn't talked for years, and I said, I'd really like to start like trying to build a relationship. Grandma passed. And the first conversation that we had, I didn't even have to ask. She said, I know I messed up with you girls, and I'm sorry for that. And I was like, so sometimes the things that you are holding on to the most, that you want so badly, is what's holding you back from receiving it. Because I no longer needed that anymore.
Wow.
So understanding some of that, of what you're holding on to, like whether it be an apology or someone to see you or whatever it is, release that a little bit. Work on yourself. And then it comes to you without even having to ask.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful. I can feel the energy of that. Very, very powerful. Isn't that interesting? That concept applies to so many different elements of, whether you want to call it manifestation or creation, of healing it within yourself, and then everything kind of flows. It just in ways you wouldn't have expected. and you don't have such a tight grip on it. But it takes a lot of courage, and I commend you on your path. I can tell, have so much courage when it comes to your transformation and your healing, and you bring that to your work. So thank you so much. And I've got a few rapid fire questions here that we ask all of our guests. And we've touched on a little bit of this, but just see what comes forward. What is one belief that you have that you no longer believe?
That money is hard to come by and it has to be a struggle to get.
Ooh, love it. What do you believe consciousness is?
Connection to all. Like, it reminds me of my meditation, of when I'm in meditation and I see myself and then I float and then I dissolve.
Love that. What is source, God, or oneness?
Again, I think that's connection to all. Internally ourselves as well as everybody else. It's this deep cellular connection to all things. That includes plants, rocks, everything.
Beautiful. And if it's 100 years in the future, what do you hope for humanity?
I hope that there is more green. I hope that there's more space. And I hope that there is more community and connection between people.
Love that. And you can find more with Miranda in the SoulPod in her deconditioning portal coming soon. And where else can people connect with you, Miranda, and find you?
Thank you. Miranda-Mitchell.com. You can go to that space. I also want to share that I'm finally done my oracle cards. So my oracle cards are done, and they focus on deconditioning. They're focused on the gene keys, human design. So if you want to learn about those aspects, I've created these in a way that you can go and journal and reflect in your own space and time to learn, rather than having to have like a one-on-one session right away. And then if you want to go deeper, have that deeper session. So this way you kind of grounded into already what you know about yourself. So I created this in a way so that there's a more grounded feeling with it, rather than just getting the support of the one-on-one support that a lot of people are doing with sessions.
Amazing. Sounds like a really great integrative and reflection-based tool. Excited for your oracle cards. Miranda, thank you so much for chatting with me today. This has been really, really fun, and we will continue to be in conversation. And thank you. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for journeying with us today, Light Being. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and before you go, we'd love to offer you even more spiritual guidance and daily rituals. This week, we launched the biggest update since SoulPod first hit the App Store. To celebrate, we're offering you a free month of SoulPod with the code Step Into the Portal. Your SoulPod home has been completely reimagined with even more ease, more rhythm, and more room to grow. Now you can revisit past journeys, save your favorite rituals, and build personalized playlists that move with your energy. And at the heart of it all, portals. Portals are guided mini journeys, flexible, soulful spaces designed to meet you right where you are. Beginners welcomes you into the heart of soulfulness, no experience needed. Soulscapes offers looping soundscapes for solo self-guided practice. And Integration holds you gently after transformation, offering grounding and expansion. Download the app or tap the link in our show notes to begin. We'll see you inside.